What's the most ridiculous thing you've heard a parent say when fighting for custody in court? 1. My ex-husband told the court that our 2 young sons had a new mother and didn't need me anymore. The judge actually did a double take when he processed what he just heard. He asked the ex to explain himself. My ex proceeded to say that he had met a woman and moved her into the house. Therefore she would be their new mother. I got physical custody. The ex got a lecture from the judge about how children never stop needing their parents, regardless of whether they get along with each other. Let me also add that this judge had just gone through a horrendous divorce from the mother of his children, and he'd never even considered the concept of the kids not needing their actual parents. Staying silent during this lecture was sweet vengeance against a man who was exceptionally abusive. 2. My ex-son-in-law took my daughter to court to have his child support payments decreased. The judge asked him why. His exact words were, "Well, Your Honor, I just got remarried, and just bought a new car and a house. I just can't afford it anymore. Paying this is infringing on my lifestyle." The judge looked over the paperwork, and agreed that there had been an error in the amount he was paying. He lowered the child support by $0.25 per month, and hit him with $500 in court costs, and told him that he is responsible for his son's medical care and insurance till he's out of college. He truly ripped him a new one for about a half hour, driving home what a posse he is. 4. A white Australian man was in court. His Maori wife had left him and was seeking to take their 4-year-old daughter back home to New Zealand. He was protesting that he'd never see his daughter if she left Australia and moved countries. The Maori wife had a strong case with his history of DV, his years in prison for attempted murder, and she'd asked the New Zealand government to ask for the return of the child to be raised in her own Maori culture. The judge had that letter of cultural request in his hands as he observed the white Australian father. The judge said, "You have a very long history of violence, and domestic violence. Now your wife wants to leave you and take your child home to New Zealand with her. Tell me why you continually assaulted her?" White Australian man asking for custody replied, "Because the stupid black beach deserved it." And then he laughed. And the judge picked up the letter from the New Zealand government and signed it, giving the Maori wife the freedom to take her child back to New Zealand and the safety of her family. 5. My ex. He actually tried to get full custody of our daughters. One was almost 18 and one was almost 16. He shared an apartment with 5 other men all in their 40s. The only space my ex had that was his own was his bedroom. Living room, kitchen, bathroom was all shared space. He thought that by getting custody he would get child support and alimony from me. I however had an apartment for just me and the kids. They each had their own rooms and no one else lived with us. He tried asking the court for a home study to decide who the kids should live with. My daughter spoke with my lawyer, who in turn spoke with his lawyer. His lawyer finally convinced him it wouldn't go well to pursue that in court. He would lose and then have to pay the costs of the home study. I got the kids, the dogs, the tools, and by time my ex finished dragging the whole thing out, my oldest was over 18 and no longer part of the custody agreement. I might add that I specifically worded the custody arrangement. There were no set days he got to see my youngest. It was at her discretion if she wanted to spend time with him, talk to him, or have any contact with him. She didn't and hasn't to this day, almost 10 years later. He was, and still is, a violent, mean drug addict who has never admitted to having a problem, has never held a job, except for one time, for longer than 3 months. The one time he did, I drove him to work every day and picked him up after. He hung on to it for a year. He will lie, cheat, and steal to feed his habit. Once he called his mother, gave her this BS story about how he and his new GF had moved to Florida. They had, and all he needed was my youngest social security number, and Florida welfare would send her a check every month. She actually had the nerve to call and ask for the number. My daughter was smart enough not to give it to her. I called my ex-mill later that day and asked her just how stupid she was. Florida wasn't going to send a check to NJ. He was trying to claim that my daughter lived with him in Florida to scam welfare. I called Florida the very next day. I sent a copy of the divorce decree and gave them my ex's name and social security number. I knew it because I always filled out any paperwork for us, including tax returns, and told them in no uncertain terms that none of my children lived with him in that state and he did not have the legal right to any benefits for them. The damage he could have done with that number. Credit cards in her name when she turned 18. Loans. 6. A family friend, soon-to-be ex-husband, tried to argue in court that she wasn't really their child's mother at all, because their child was born via C-section. Therefore, my friend had never given birth, only had a mass removed. Everyone in the room looked at him like he'd taken a dump on the witness stand, including his own lawyer. My friend got sole custody. 7. This wasn't when we were fighting for custody, but when I was trying to have our custody case transferred to a different court's jurisdiction. The judge asked me why I wanted the change. I told him that the kids and I had moved to the jurisdiction of the other court and I planned on asking for a change to our custody case. I had no car, and with the way the public transportation ran, I had to come up with the kids the night before court and stay the night at a friend's house to be able to make it to court on time, and then the kids would all miss a full day of school. The judge then asked their dad why he didn't want the change to happen. He told the judge that it would inconvenience him, even though he had a car. I had never seen a judge yell at anyone before that day. He was screaming at my ex, "How does your inconvenience trump your kids missing school, spending the night away from home, spending hours on a bus?" I got the change of jurisdiction.